GCPL presents Amazing Jewish Innovators. Our first innovator is Gertrude Elian. Gertrude Bell Elian was born on January 23, 1918, in New York City. Her father, a dentist, immigrated to the U.S. from Lithuania, and her mother immigrated from Russia, both as children. Gertrude, an excellent student who excelled in her studies, was accelerated 2 years and graduated from high school at 16 in the height of the Great Depression. As a senior in high school, she had witnessed the painful death of her father from stomach cancer and vowed to become a cancer researcher. She was able to attend college only because several local colleges offered free tuition to select students. In 1937, Elian graduated from Hunter College with a B.A. in chemistry, but was unable to find a job as a chemist because no one had ever hired a woman chemist before. She had just begun secretarial school when she landed a one-semester stint teaching biochemistry to nurses and then took a position in a friend's laboratory. With the money from these jobs, as well as being a substitute teacher in the public schools, she was able to attend graduate school. In 1941, she graduated from New York University with a MS degree in chemistry. Upon graduation, Elian again faced difficulties finding work appropriate to her experience. She was finally offered a position, due to the start of World War II and men leaving their jobs to fight the war, at the research lab of biochemist George Herbert Hitchings at Wellcome Research Laboratories. Their working relationship started in June of 1944 and lasted for the rest of their careers. Each time Hitchings was promoted, Gertrude took his former position, until finally becoming the head of the Department of Experimental Therapy in 1967, where she would remain until her retirement. Hoping to obtain her Ph.D., she enrolled in night classes at Brooklyn Polytechnic Institute. She had to quit when the school forced her to choose between being a full-time student and continuing her job at Wellcome. In the 1940s, Elian and Hitchings became interested in the dissimilarities in the use of nucleic acids, the chemical involved in the replication of DNA in normal versus abnormal cells. Any dissimilarities in the use of nucleic acids might serve as a target point for a drug that could destroy normal cells without harming healthy ones. By 1951, Elian discovered the first effective compound against childhood leukemia, known as Pyrenthal, or 6-MP. It increased the life expectancy from a few months to a year. Pyrenthal, when used in combination with other drugs, made leukemia one of the most curable cancers. It was found by later scientists that Pyrenthal could be used to prevent organ transplant, and was also effective in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. Elian's efforts to improve on 6-MP's effectiveness also led to the discovery of a treatment for gout. Elian was also instrumental in the development of another leukemia-fighting drug that was approved in 1966. In the 1950s, Elian and Hitchings' lab also discovered a treatment for malaria and two now common antibiotics, Bactrim and Septra. In 1969, the lab turned to trying to find antiviral compounds, eventually leading to Zovirax, a drug for herpes, chickenpox, and shingles, which was one of Wellcome's most profitable drugs. Researchers trained by Elian and Hitchings developed AZT, the first drug used to treat AIDS. As a result of their extensive research on drugs, which led to the treatment of incurable diseases, Elian and Hitchings were awarded the Nobel Prize of Physiology or Medicine. Gertrude Elian died on February 21, 1999, at age 81. During her life, Elian held over 45 patents. Her unquestionable goal throughout her life was to cure cancer, an achievement not realized in her lifetime. Her research, however, made significant contributions to cancer research. Our next innovator is Isidore Robbie. Isidore Robbie was born on July 29, 1898, in Reimenau, then a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. When Isidore was 1 year old, his family immigrated to the United States, where they settled in New York City. His father became the owner of a grocery store. Yiddish was the only language spoken in the Robbie household, but young Isidore quickly picked up English while attending public schools. He graduated from high school in 1916. He entered Cornell University to study electrical engineering, but changed his major to chemistry and graduated in 1919. He married in 1926 and had 2 daughters. He spent 3 years as a chemist and returned to Cornell for graduate work. He soon discovered that his real interest was in physics and entered the doctoral program at Columbia University. His specialty while there was the study of the effects of magnetic fields on matter. For his postdoctoral studies, he went to Europe to spend time at several scientific institutions. Most significant was his time with Otto Stern, who had developed methods of creating beams of atoms or molecules that could be used to study the magnetic properties of the atomic nuclei in these beams. Robbie returned to Columbia and did his own research on the use of atomic and nuclear beams to study nuclear properties. His most important accomplishment was to determine the magnetic moment of the nucleus, an important piece of information essential to an accurate model of the atom. By 1937, he made yet another important discovery, that nuclei could be induced to flip their principal magnetic orientation by imposing an external radio frequency signal on an atomic or molecular beam. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1944 for his work on the resonance method of recording the magnetic properties of the atomic nucleus, otherwise known as nuclear magnetic resonance. By 1939, he had worked his way up the ranks and became a full professor at Columbia. During World War II, Robbie took a leave of absence from Columbia to work on the development of microwave radar devices at MIT. While most of his contemporaries were contributing to the development of atomic weapons, Robbie believed that radar would be more immediately useful in the U.S. war efforts. Though he did consult on nuclear weapons projects as part of the Manhattan Project, he commented after World War II that the atomic bomb ended the war, but radar won it. Robbie returned to Columbia as the chair of the physics department. The department, at that time depleted from the war, would be turned in a few years into one of the best in the world. Robbie also became involved in the effort by science to restrict military control of nuclear technology. He was also an advisor to NATO and the United Nations. Robbie died in New York City on January 11, 1998. Our third and final innovator is Robert Adler. Robert Adler was born on December 13, 1913, in Vienna, Austria, to a mother who was a doctor and a father who was a prominent social theorist. Adler earned his doctorate in physics from the University of Vienna in 1937 at age 24. He left Vienna in 1939, 1 year after Germany occupied Austria, and then moved to the United States a few years later. He was hired by Zenith, based in Chicago. In that era, consumer electronics companies like Zenith and RCA operated fully staffed research laboratories. As a non-American, he could not work on classified projects during World War II, so he was given a private laboratory and staff and could work on projects of his own choosing. He specialized in high-frequency oscillators and electromechanical filters for aircraft radios, which were used by the U.S. Air Force to detect long-range missiles during the time of the war. After the war, Adler's work focused mainly on television technology. His first invention was a gated beam vacuum tube, which eliminated a great deal of sound interference and reduced costs as well. This, to Adler, was his most important work. However, Adler's most famous invention was the wireless remote control, which he developed along with coworker Eugene Pauly. The Space Command ultrasonic remote control developed by Adler used ultrasound, sounds with frequencies so high that the human ear could not hear. The sound wave was generated by hitting a spring-loaded button that produced a click sound when pushed. The device, when introduced by Zenith in 1956, along with the slogan, "Nothing between you and the set but space." The ultrasonic technology was the standard for television sets until the early 1980s, when remote control units used infrared signals came into prominence. When Adler was asked if he felt guilty that his remote control spawned a couch potato mentality, he thought that was ridiculous, that it was only logical people would want to change the channel from where they sat. Electronic companies sold over 9 million of these types of remote control devices. In 1997, Dr. Adler and Eugene Poley received an Emmy Award for their invention. In the 1960s, Adler relied on the work he did with filters while in the military to explore the use of surface acoustic waves in frequency filters for color television sets. Adler was a pioneer in touchscreen technology that would later predominate our lives. Adler also directed early research into optical video discs and contributed to advances in piezoelectric ceramics, a smart material that converts a mechanical effect into an electrical signal. Adler retired from Zenith as vice president for research in 1979, but remained a technical consultant until 1999, when Zenith was sold to LG Electronics. Adler died of heart failure on February 15, 2007. During his life, he held 180 patents for electronic devices. To learn more about these amazing innovators, you can use these resources on GCPL's website. This has been GCPL's Amazing Jewish Innovators. Thank you for watching.